Alright guys, my video on the new commander invite system was a bit controversial, so I figured why not keep the controversy rolling. Who doesn't love some good drama? Today, I'm going to talk about problematic commander design, specifically related to Sunind. Let's get into it. Alright guys, I want to start this video off by saying that I'm not saying that Sunind is unbeatable. She can definitely be beaten. I'm saying the problem with Sunind and a few other commanders in this game is that you have to go to such great lengths to specifically counter that commander in order to beat them that you warp your troop and or gear composition to such an extent that you then suffer greatly against other commanders. We might take a look at a couple reports here in a minute, depends on the timing of the video. For now, we have a little bit of combat going on while I talk away. So to use Sunind as an example, because she has been such a hot topic recently, particularly on the server that I'm on, you pretty much have to pack your army full of Dunedain. This is specifically related to good side RP servers. By the way, I do understand that she is quite a bit weaker in non-roleplay because Evil has more ways to deal with her. However, for good factions on RP, she is a big problem. You have to pack your army full of dunes. People are even resorting to bringing things like melee might cutlasses on Gandalf the Grey, Bane of Orcs Hithlanes, and things like that. Just completely building their commander around killing Sunind. We have a channel set up in game specifically for these players so we can link them the locations of Suninds and they can quick march in and take them out. I think that alone should really impress upon people, I couldn't think of the word there for a second, should really impress upon people the level to which Sunind and her strength is warping the metagame. When we have people specifically building some commanders just to hit her anytime she shows up, that's the lengths that people are having to go to in order to actually deal with this commander. And kind of the fundamental problem with that, because obviously she can't be countered if you do something like that. However, the fundamental problem with needing to do that is that then you suffer greatly against any other commander that you may or may not hit. And in these big fights, in these big, every army is just going everywhere, nobody can tell what's happening, or when two huge forces are stacked up on a crossing or a big tile near each other, you really can't pick your fights in this game. And I think more so than any other commander, if you are not prepared for Sunind, if your commander just can't handle her because you don't have dunes in that march, then your army is just erased. I mean, it is just demolished to a ridiculous extent unless you have a significant level and or gear advantage against her. So I think that is why she is such a hot topic right now and such a problem, is the fighting against her is just so polarizing. Either you build your commander to kill her, you land on her, and you do well, or you don't build your commander for her, you land on her, and you're just evaporated, just gone. Or you build your commander specifically for her, and then you land on something like a Khaldun with Reapers, and then you're just screwed in that case as well. I do want to mention for the sake of the video that there are a couple of other commanders that have this same sort of dynamic to them, primarily being Gil-galad and the Witch King. If you don't have burn protection and or high alert, and you run into a Witch King, your army is evaporated. However, those effects are good against people other than just the Witch King. That's one of the big differences there. Same thing with Gil-galad. If you run into him and you don't have pursuit or some way to shut down those first 2 rounds of combat, you're going to be really hurting. However, pursuit isn't uniquely good against Gil-galad. It's good against a number of commanders. Burn resistance is primarily good against the Witch King, but high alert itself is good against other commanders as well. And these things come in the form of items that you can hot swap in, or skills that you can swap in quite easily on the fly if you happen to know that you're going to be taking that fight. And in my opinion, bringing something like Hunter's Mark on Wizard's Fireworks on a commander that's going to be running ranged units anyways, you're not really missing out on all that much. If you're running Hunter's Mark instead of Ranged Might on your Wizard's Fireworks, for example, you're only missing out on something like 9% damage. Yeah, it kind of sucks to miss out on 9% damage, but that's better than your army just being completely evaporated because you didn't have Pursuit. One of the other issues with Sunind is that that is not the case. You can't just hot swap a pursuit accessory in. You can't just reskill yourself a little bit. If you don't have a whole bunch of dunes, you are just dead. So while I don't think that she's the only commander that has this sort of fatal design flaw, I do think she's the most egregious because she's also the most difficult to counter, at least for good side on roleplay servers. You pack a whole bunch of dunes in your army, you hope to hit her. If you don't, you're dead. And unfortunately, those dunes just aren't really good against any other evil side commanders, whereas things like High Alert and Burn Protection and Pursuit, they are generally useful, whereas dunes are specifically useful to that one commander from evil factions in RP. And we'll finish up by taking a look at a couple reports for anybody that stuck around this long. We'll go over them quickly for the sake of time, but I did want to go ahead and at least show them to you guys, and then we'll wrap things up. All right, we'll start things off as far as the reports go, showing how you can in fact counter Sunind. I do want to point out that this is either not a Respect 5 Sunni, or potentially is using not what, in my opinion, not the correct build. She also does not have any Madness Protection, and I would say that she is reasonably outgeared, while this Gandalf is bringing a 3-star refined gigantic hammer with Rend and a Bane of Orcs Hithlane and the Hysteria Bone Mask, as well as 37 command, so half of his army is dedicated completely to countering Sunni. And still, despite these things, this isn't that great of a fight. I mean, obviously he's winning. It is a solid fight overall, but he's still taking a huge chunk of damage, and he's losing some katas, which is really painful. And we can contrast that with this report, where unfortunately OG Wolf brought 0 dunes against the same exact Sunni, so same exact one that we looked at just a second ago, and she doesn't have quite a full army, and my man's got completely dunked on, absolutely slaughtered. If this Sunni was R5 with better gear, it wouldn't even have been this close. Like, he actually did a reasonable amount of damage to her during this fight. If this was a different Sunni, it would not even have been close, I can promise you that. And we'll wrap things up by looking at a fight in which poor Nenya was not even remotely prepared to fight Sunni. This guy has a very solid Theoden, including the unique item, and Mieris's Reigns. This Theoden has 410,000 HP on these cav units. The Sunni is not even a full army. And you can see that Theoden got absolutely smashed. The only reason that it's even this close, quote unquote, is because these are all cavalry units, which in general are worth twice as much as infantry units. This Sunni army did 426,000 damage. That is almost enough to kill 2 full infantry marches back to back. Absolutely crazy in my opinion. So hopefully you guys don't think that this is too biased of a video. I don't think Sunni needs to be completely gutted, but I do think there needs to be some better way to counter her for good factions in RP servers. It's not just, like I said at the beginning, it's not that she can't be beaten, it's that you have to go to such lengths to beat her, and if you're unprepared, you get absolutely thrashed. I can't think of another matchup that is so polarizing. I mean, obviously there's counters in this game, but counters that I've seen in the past, even if you run into your counter, you don't get completely evaporated. With other matchups, even if you run into a bad matchup, you can likely still deal a respectable amount of damage. However, if you run into Suni and you're not ready for her, like I've said about 100 times in this video, you're just gone, deleted, evaporated, no chance at all. You're going to take a few command off of her army, and that's that. Alright guys, that's it for this video. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and thank you for watching.